Hello, and welcome to the C++ Bootcamp. Last time we met, we talked about, we started to talk about pointers. We talked about Visual Studio installation from nothing. Today I thought what we would do, and probably going forward, is we can solve some problems, and while doing that, talk a bit about the pieces that you need and the thought process that goes into creating a solution to a programming problem. So without further ado, let's get started. I am going to, like I normally do, start with an empty project, but this time we're going to give it a name. So as you can see here, we're going to work with palindromes. And we're not going to use the standard library. We're going to write a couple of functions that'll do the work for us and hopefully learn a bit more about how this kind of operation workflow is done. So let's see. I'll just call this palindrome. I won't make it nothing fancy or anything like that. Ooh, gotta learn how to spell, right? Okay. All right, so as usual, we'll do our obligatory boilerplate. Ooh, man. Okay, so do the namespace. Go ahead and create the function, our main, because we always need a main for our C++ function program, sorry. And of course our return. All right, so now palindromes, what are they? So a palindrome, if you don't know, is a string that is itself when reversed. So madam is a palindrome because madam reversed is madam. I am, let's see, no, that won't work. Oh, race car is another because race car backwards is race car. Let me grab grab a couple strings from the cheat sheet. I got that. So actually what I'm doing is I'm looking at another site that has these assignments and I'm copying them over so I don't have to try to come up with a bunch of them. All right, so we got madam, we got race car. Oh yeah, radar, that's another good one. And a bunch of other ones. I won't type them all out to keep you from being too bored. But the main idea is something backwards is itself. All right, so then we got the phrases with spaces. And do a couple more here. And then phrases with punctuation and spaces, which makes it a little bit more challenging, but we'll try to deal with it, so don't worry about it. So notice that they go up in terms of the complexity of the actual string. Where I mean complexity just to say you have your spaces, you have your punctuation, and you have your capitalization. Okay, so programming assignment. Man, I'm really screwing up on the keyboard, right? Programming assignment is create a program that can detect palindromes. All right, so, whoops. So that means that for all of these that are palindromes, we should say, yes, it's a palindrome, and for anything that is not, we should say, no, it's not a palindrome. And of course, if you still want to know more about them, just look at Wikipedia, look at Google. Okay, so even though this isn't like a really big programming assignment, it's still something that you have to put a little thought into. So right off the bat, I know I'm going to need something that gives me back a Boolean, and I would just say is palindrome. And I'm going to do the const char star some string. And then it's going to tell me that it is or is not. So another thing that I know I'm going to have to do is, let's see, I'm going to have to do something that returns a const char star. So remove non-ASCII, I guess is a good way to say it. Well, not non-ASCII. So remove remove punctuation. Which the reason we would do this is to get rid of the spaces and the commas. So let's see, will these two alone let me do palindromes? No, I forgot. I need to also be able to reverse the string. And then I would give it the original string that we had to begin with. All right, so if we can reverse a string and we can remove punctuation, okay, and we also want to do the two lowercase. All right, so the first thing, let me, let's see, lower. I'll do something like lower. Make sure there isn't already a lower. Nope. Okay. And what I just did, you couldn't see it. I hit Control and space, and Visual Studio would try and complete for you. So we don't need that here. Now, if I can, so if I take something like this, and the reason that I did it this way is because I'm looking at, if I want to figure out if something's a palindrome, the first thing I need to do is get it back to just a bunch of text. Because if I can take this string and reverse it and know that it's the same string, then I've got a palindrome. So something as complicated as this last phrase is really just a matter of lowercasing and removing all of the special characters and then reversing. So those three operations should let me do what I need to do so that I can figure out if a string is a palindrome. So then, let's see. Up until now, we haven't really been using our collection of arguments that we get when we actually run the program. So I won't use them yet, but we're going to get to the point very soon where we use argc and argv, but not for this. So all we need to do for this is say, let me see, so maybe const char star my string, and I could just have it, we'll start off with the most complicated one because the simpler ones auto work. So, okay, you can do one of two things. You can start from the simpler one where you know all you have to do is call reverse, or you can do the more complicated one. So I just said do the more complicated one first, but truthfully, you want to start here to make sure that you have something that will work at without having to do a lot of manipulation. So all I need to do at the moment is make sure that I can reverse a string. So what this is going to look like is, so const char star rev string is equal to reverse string, and then some string. So the original string is going to be passed in, and then it's going to return a string that's a reverse of the original string. Okay, so what, I didn't call that right. Oh, I said rev string. No, I said, yep, just bad spelling. So reverse string. All right. So my first string is going to be our simple case, just to make sure that we know what we're doing. So let's set it to madam. And then we're going to say cout. Well, actually, I need to say cout dot write. Oh, okay. So I need something else here. So what I'm about to do is try to call cout write against this character array, but then I need to give it the. Let's look at this. I need to. If I can get the pop-up to stay. All right, so I need to give it the string, which is a const char star, and I need to give it the size, so the number of characters in the string. So now we need another function that is like, and we did this before, but let me see, unsigned int. Gosh, this misspelling. All right, so unsigned int, so get length, and then we do a const char star, some string. And all we want to do here is return the number of characters in the string. So we will use our handy dandy for loop for this and say int I is 0, and then while some string at some index is not equal to null, and then we iterate. We increase the iterator with the I++. We also need to create an unsigned int called length, set it to 0, and then we return length. So what's going to happen here is we're going to provide the string. Length is 0, so if we gave it an empty string where the first character in this character array is equal to nothing, this loop would never run, and then we'd return 0. But if we've got a character array where you've got characters that are not null, and this 0 means null when you're talking about a character array, then we just need to length plus plus. And there are shorter ways of writing this, but when you write programs, you should be careful to make it as clear as possible. You can be tricky, you can use shortcuts, but if you do that, then you run the risk of maybe you forget in the future. Just something to think about. That's just a suggestion. It's not a hard and fast rule. Okay, so get length to take the character array, set the length to 0, loop through as long as you can loop through and you have a valid character. You increase this length variable, and then you give back the number of characters in the array. So we set up our string, and then we're gonna get back the number of characters in that array. So we'll just call it length just to be consistent. I mean, you know, it's up to you what you want to call it, but I try to be consistent. Try. So get length, my string. Oops, close that off. Okay. So then now I want to see out. So I want to see out the string. So my string, and then I want to say length. And after that, I want to say let me see now. All I want to do is say the string palindrome check. I don't know, something simple. and then colon, and then now we can do, let's see, we can make a Boolean palindrome, say false, just to set it to something initial, and then update it after, so we update it right here. So palindrome equals is palindrome, and then my string. So we're going to print the string, and then we're going to print a space and say palindrome check result, and then we're going to print out the palindrome Boolean. And that should be it. That should be it for this part. So right now, we've got one function that'll give us the length, and we've got the function that checks for palindrome, but it doesn't do anything. So the next thing is we take the string and we're going to reverse it. So we've got sum string and we've got reverse string, and then we're going to do, okay, so actually, well, so this is one way to do it. There's multiple ways to do it, but this is one way. And the way I'm doing it is I'm going to take the string, I'm going to make another string that's the reverse, and then I'm going to check to see if they are matches character to character. Now, and I'll do this one, and then at the end I'll talk about another way to do it, where you don't have to make a copy, not that way, but you would still need to do all the transformations I'm about to do if you have a character array that's like this one at the bottom, or even like this one, because the problem with just handling the string as is you have to make sure that if you're going to do it the second way, that you don't have to make a copy, that you need to know that you're talking about characters and not trying to compare I to a space. So just something to be mindful of. But okay, so we're checking for the palindrome, we're passing the string, we take the string and we want to reverse that string and then get a new string. So we don't have anything in that function, let's do the reverse now. Okay, so the other thing is, yeah, we need this same thing in that function because we're about to reverse it. Meaning we need the length. We need to know what the string, what the length of the string is. And then, what's going on here? Nothing, okay. And then we're gonna do something that you've seen me do before, but, so we're gonna do const, well, not const char, actually need a char star. I messed that up. We need a char star here because we're about to make a new string. So char pointer rev string is equal to char star malloc size of char times sum string, not sum string, length. Because what you want now, remember we talked about the character buffer, and the way you get a character buffer, now this is not C++, but I'm not using new and delete or any of that kind of stuff yet. And we'll get to those, but not yet. I want to try to keep it direct. So, but remember, this is not new C++, and this isn't even really C++, it's C. So just bear with me. This is one way of doing it right now where we're not trying to be fancy and we're not really making use of all the C++ mechanisms yet. We're just getting used to solving problems. So just bear with me, but there are better ways to do this. There are newer and safer ways to manage memory and manage pointers, but we haven't gotten there yet. So just bear with me. We'll get there eventually in different lectures. Okay, so the reverse string is going to be a character buffer, and the character buffer is going to be big enough to hold the string that you passed into reverse string. Now this is, and I'll explain why I'm doing it this way, but remember, if you've got something that's like this, where you have spaces and punctuation, what you would do is you would do, if you remember from math, a function composition, you'd kind of do something like that, where you remove all the punctuation, you lowercase the string, and then you're left with something that is like madam, but would be composed of red rum, sir is murder. And then you do the reverse, and then you check to see if it's a palindrome. So that's the logic I'm using at this point. Okay, so let's see. Reverse string buffer based on the length of the original string. Okay, and then when this is over with, we're going to return rev string. Now, if you remember from last time, returning this to someplace else means that you need to clean it up after the fact. So, just something to be mindful of. And that means wherever you do a malloc, you have to do a free. So, here we pass nothing because we haven't filled that in. And here we pass nothing because we haven't filled that in. All right. So here we're going to return reverse. Okay, so now we need the for loop. And we're going to say int I is equal to length minus 1. And as long as I is greater than or equal to 0, we're going to I minus minus. And then we're going to say rev string. And we also need a forward iterator. Sorry about that. So I is, all right, so I is 0. J is that guy. And then as long as J is greater than that, then you're going to increment I and decrement J. Okay, so we're doing something we have done before, where the original string, let's say it's A, B, C, we need to go backwards in the original string because we're going to fill that buffer with the characters in reverse. So, because remember, the point of a palindrome is the word forward is the same as the word backwards. Or, block of text. The same forwards as it is backwards. That's where we're going. Okay, so now reverse string. We've got the buffer. We're gonna walk through the original sum string, but backwards. And the reason that we don't do length is because remember you're talking about a character array, or any array in C and C++. The index starts at 0. So if they're like 1, 2, 3, there are 4 characters, but you have index 0, 1, 2, and 3. So, but the number of entries is 4. So that's why I'm saying length minus 1 is because I want to go backwards, but I have to be at that last element. And hopefully that makes sense. And if not, it's okay. Just tell me in the comments tell me in the comments and say, hey, can you explain arrays and indexing again? And I will do it in another video. But okay, so reverse string I is going to be equal to some string j. And that's it. And then we return reverse string. So reverse string takes a string and gives us back the reverse string. Palindrome needs the reverse string and the, let's see, okay, so it needs the reverse string and it also needs the length. Now, some of you out there might be like, well, you keep repeating this, and yes, that's true, and it's because it's better to start with the stupid version first so that you can, as you need to, refactor it later. I mean, I do that. Now, I know people that don't do that, and that's okay, because remember, these are just suggestions. They are not written in stone. I do what works for me so that I don't have to worry too much about what's where. So we get the length, we do the reverse string, and then we do the following. And also, remember, we can do a palindrome. And we say false because, hey, maybe it's not. But actually, wait. So let's say that it is until we prove otherwise. And this is just a way to do it. You don't have to do it that way. You could say false, but I choose true. And then I just return palindrome. But now I'm actually going to do the logic to figure it out. So we do a for loop. And we say, so int I is 0, I is less than length, I plus plus. So then we say, if there is ever a case, if there's ever a case where we don't have a match, palindrome is false, and we break out of the loop. So if some string I is ever not equal to rev string I at the same location, then it's not a palindrome, and we're going to break out of the loop. And once we break out of this loop, we're going to just return if it's a palindrome or not. So let's see if this builds first. So, because the thing about development is, hey, sometimes you're going to make mistakes and you have to fix them. That's just how it goes. All right, so I got a warning about a signed-unsigned mismatch, and that's here. Yeah, okay. That's fine. So unsigned int. And that's because the length is an unsigned int, and the compiler wants to make sure it's checking type against type. All right, so no warnings, no errors. Maybe we did the right thing. Maybe it's right. So, oh, you know what? I could say, well, yeah, it's palindrome, and we just say palindrome check result. So yeah. Well, wait, let me do this. I want to try and make it a little more like an English sentence. Palindrome check. Whoops. Palindrome check of, and then we leave that, and then see outright my string, and then had a result of, and I mean, this is clunky English, but I'm just trying to make it something that we can make sense of. And of course, I like to put my breakpoint, you know me, breakpoint, right? So do the rebuild. All right, still no errors, no warnings. Now we're going to see if Madam is a palindrome. And, oh, yeah, I forgot to do the thing. So I warned you about that, and I didn't even do it. I forgot. So let's see. Is this a palindrome? Okay, yes, it is a palindrome. So palindrome check of Madam had a result of 1, which means palindrome. So let's stop it and make sure that we can tell the difference between a palindrome and a non-palindrome. So build, rebuild. Okay, so debug. Now we expect to see, yeah, 0, because it's not a palindrome, right? Awesome. Okay, so we can kind of high-five ourselves, sort of, but then you kind of got to yell at me in the comments because I forgot to do the thing that I said you should do, and I didn't even do it. Now let's go back. When I checked to see if it's a palindrome, I took a string. I got the length of the string, and I reversed the string. Now remember, reversing the string is going to give you a block of memory that you've returned after you filled it with your string backwards. So actually, we can go in here, but the thing I did not do was once I was done with my friend reverse string, I'm supposed to free it. So always make sure if you allocate memory to free memory so that you don't leak memory where you're allocating and not deallocating. So the system can't reclaim that memory because it still thinks it's being used. But okay, so now if we, let's see what happens here. So, all right, madam. So now let's see what happens when it's not a palindrome so you can really see what's going on here. Okay, so now we debug. All right, so first we say, hey, it's a palindrome. And then, okay, it's like fine. So now we need a reverse string. All right, so Madar is the actual string, and then Radom is the backward string. So the first character won't match, and what that means is we should bail out. So we step over, and then the first incident, sum string I is not equal to rev string I. And if you need to see it directly, you can do in your watch sum string at I, and then rev string at I. So M and R don't match, right? And what that's going to do is going to go in here, set that to false, and break out of the for loop. That's what this break does. You can loop, but once you hit that break, it's going to say, oh, okay. Since I hit that break, I know that I need to step out of the loop, and that's it. And now that we've done that, we reclaim our memory. And then palindrome, which was initially set to true, is now set to false. So that's how that works. So now that will solve all the simple guys. So madam, race car, radar. Now let's talk about these cases with spaces in them. And I'm going to just say spaces are anything that is not, let's see. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about how to solve that. So palindrome is not worried about that just yet. It's just doing reverse string. No matter what, when you want to know if something's a palindrome, you're going to reverse the string. But what we can also do is we can remove punctuation and set to lowercase. So the first operation that we would do is we would do all lowercase. And if you think about, if we go back to the ASCII chart just for a second, so let's see, edu, maybe I'll get that chart I was looking at before. Yeah, okay. So the difference between an uppercase character and a lowercase character is, so 9765 is a difference of 32. So a trick that you can use, because remember we talked about the decimal to character conversion, is you can say, in order to lowercase, I just need to add 32 if it's in between 65 and 90. So here's what we will do. That is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to say, ooh, and I can't say const chart. Can't do that here either. So, because I need to modify the stuff I'm pointing at. So let's see. Actually, wait, maybe I can, and I'm doing a const character, I'm doing a const pointer. Okay, maybe that will work. So first of all, let's try this and see if it lets me do what I want to do. And I would just, in this case, I would just return some string. But I'm going to also do the length again. Okay, and now that we've done that, we're going to go through and we're going to lowercase all of the things that need to be lowercased. So int I is 0. I is less than, what is the length? And then I++. And what we're going to do is say if, and then we're going to say some string, what is that? Plus equal 32. Because we want to go from, what are you mad about? Expression must be modifiable. Yeah, okay. So, not that. All right. So then, let's see. And maybe that's fine. Yeah, that's okay. So when I'm passing in, I need to be able to modify like you just saw at this line. And then I can return it out and it can be constr, and that's okay. All right, but then what we want to say is if and something else. So what we're going to do is use two different conditions to say if int some string at I is, oh, spell that right. If this is greater than equal to 65, I believe it is, yeah, and if it's greater than equal to 65 and it's less than equal to 90, then we're going to turn it into a lowercase. And then we're going to return it out. And where we at? Oh, okay, so yeah, I will do this one, and then what I will do is I will wrap up and I'll do part 2 where we solve the punctuation case, the punctuation phrase case. But this will solve the mixed case, if that makes sense. Okay, so what I'm doing though is I'm saying if the decimal value of the character in that location is greater than equal to 65 and less than equal to 90, then add 32 so that it goes from uppercase to lowercase because we're changing the actual decimal value. So now let's see if that works. All right, yeah. So oh, okay. So, in order to make that conditional, I might not, I want, let's see. Okay, yeah, I'll just do that anyway. Excuse me. So, is palindrome takes the string, and it can't be a const char. Yeah, it can't be a const char because it'll get upset if I'm trying to modify it. So, let's see. Get length. Don't need a const char. Lower, don't need a const char. Reverse. Excuse me. Yeah, I can't make it a const char because the other stuff's not const char. All right, that's better. All right, so palindrome. We're going to take the length. We're going to do. We're going to say. Let's see. I don't think I have to do, well, I can do this. I can say maybe some string, well, actually, yeah, that's okay. I can do that. So lowercase, I think I can do this. Lowercase string equals lower some string. I mean, that should work. I think that'll work. Let's see. I think that'll not get upset. Value type const char cannot be used initialize entity type char star. Am I saying const char star? Oh, right, because of what I'm returning. Yeah, let's do that. So that's the other thing with pointers, and we'll definitely keep diving into pointers, but just know that they are a variable that points to an address instead of a number or something like that. All right, what's wrong with you? Oh, right, because I said const char star instead of just saying char star. Okay. And then this, what is your problem? A value of type const char star cannot be used to initialize an entity of type char star. Why are you upset? Const char star takes a length. Oh, okay. All right. Well, to solve this problem, I will have to go back to my original. So get length is gonna const char star and then return an integer. And lower is gonna take a const char star and return a char star. And that's okay because, so this is a const char star, get length, lower, right. Okay, so let's see. So what I'm trying to do now is make up for the fact that I need to, because I'm about to manipulate this const char star, I really am going to have to make a copy, just like I did when I reversed a string. So yeah, let's do that now. Get length, lowercase, reverse string is, what is that doing? Reverse string is doing const char star, yeah, like it should. All right, so then the only other loose end is lower. So in this case, what I need to do is just say lower string or low string. So we'll just make a new string buffer based on the length, and then we're gonna do our lowercase thing, and we're gonna just say see low string is equal to some string plus 32. And I think that should just work. But if not, then I have to do some casts like we've seen before. All right, so we got our lower and we got our reverse. The only thing left is punctuation. So length, lower, rev string, and then we free lower and free rev string. And normally I free in reverse order. I mean, that's what I do. So lowercase string, and then rev string. So lowercase string, rev string, lowercase string. Last in can be the first out. All right, and let's see if this builds. And if it builds, we're almost there, but then let's make sure that it doesn't die. Okay, so where's the, right, unsigned end. All right, do another rebuild. Now, if this works, then we should be able to do, see, we ought to be able to say something like MADAM, and then like a, and it should still be a palindrome. So let's see if that works. Okay, we're good, and we can wrap it up, and then I'll do another one next time that kind of closes the loop. So start debugging, don't die on me. All right, palindrome. Oh, interesting, didn't work. Okay, so let's see what happened. Debug, stop debugging. Oh, you know what happened? I know what happened. I said, so palindrome, some string. Lowercase string, lower, and reverse string should be lowercase string, not some string. Because some string and lowercase string would never match. So let's do this again and try once more. Are we lucky? No. Okay. All right, let's see what happened. All right. So let's put a debug here. See what the deal is. All right, so it starts off, yes, palindrome. Okay, so length is 5. Lower is gibberish. Okay, so we know where our problem is then. So let's go and look at what's happening with the gibberish. Low string, malloc, length, some string. All right. And this is the strength of debugging. Now, some people hate debugging. I don't mind it. It's not that bad. It actually helps. Okay, so lower. Length, low string. So if int some string greater than 65 and... Oh, I see. Okay, so low string I, what happened here? So some string I is what? M. And 77 plus 32 should have put me there at 109, but instead it put me... Okay, so 77... Somehow it got me down, it got me into semicolon land. 58, it looked like. All right, so now for that, remember we're talking about the watch. We can say low string I is 58. So how in the world did we get 58 from that? Okay. Now I was greater than, some string I was greater than 65 and less than 90. So that's what made it come in here. All right, so now let's try this. I think I do need to be careful. I need to say low string I at the same location is, oh, yeah. Because I'm not talking about some string, I have to be careful about plus equals because that'll mess you up. So low string at I is equal to some string at I, and then let's make sure we do the right cast. So that's an integer, and then add 32. And if it's not uppercase, then we just need to make sure we give it the right value because it is not the same array now. Otherwise, it's equal to some string I with no changes. Okay, so now we've done that part. Now let's go back to our buddy Palindrome and see if we have some success this time. So instead of junk, we ought to see what we expect. All right, so Palindrome, length. Let's go back to the autos. Yeah, length palindrome. Let's see, some string is madam. Lower don't look like junk. Okay, good, very good. So lowercase is now lowercase madam, you see. Rev string should be what we expect, and then if we continue, oh, it's still no good. Okay, so what happened? All right. It was looking good too. I think we're close. Okay, we are closer. So let's see. Lowercase string is lower some string. That looked good, but then in the reverse string, length, oh, cuz. I'm still using that damn thing. All right, lowercase string, and sorry about that, guys. I try to keep it PG. All right, lowercase string is lower some string, rev string, reverse case string. We do the loop, and we got the lowercase string I not equal rev string I, palindrome false, and then break. Okay, that looks good. Let's see if it actually works. right, and we will just let it go. Stop it at this palindrome. We hit continue. Work. No, it's still no good. All right. Why not? So let's see. Lowercase string, rev string, break. So rev string is lowercase string, reversed. Length. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Let's see what's going on here. All right. So now, if we're looking at lowercase string and we're looking at rev string, ooh, rev string got all goofed up. Okay, this is a, interesting. Okay, I need to fix that. All right, so let's see. So doing a palindrome, length, lowercase, rev string. Okay, the problem here is I need to make sure that I account for the right amount of space here. So size of times this lower. See if I can make this work. And then say +1. And when I do that, that should give me the space that I need to say low string length is equal to 0. Because I think that what's happening is the buffer I gave it doesn't have enough space to account for the null, and because it can't account for the null, well, actually, I probably could have just done a memset and been fine. But let's see if this works. If that works, then when we get to where we're trying to do a reverse string, we should be able to do the not the reverse string, but the when it tries to calculate the length. So when we're in the palindrome function and we calculated the length, when we did the lowercase string didn't have a 0, so that's why the reverse string looked like absolute trash. It's because it's walking through memory trying to figure out where to stop so that it gets the right length. So let's see. Let's try that again. All right, so palindrome, length, lowercase. Okay, good. So see how it looks like this instead of looking like junk like it did before? It had Madam, but then it had other stuff after that. Hopefully that cleared that up. So now rev string. Okay, now notice again, rev string has that junk at the end. So let's fix that. So what we do in that case is say, we do the same thing, like a +1. Whoops. To give it that additional piece of memory, that additional byte that'll give you what you need to close it off at the end. So rev string at length is equal to 0. All right, so if we do that and we do the build, what we ought to get now is something that works like we expect. So start debug. All right, so now we go. All right, very good. See, this is the original and these are the two, so the lowercase version and the reverse of that. We hit continue, and we got a palindrome again. Okay, so we talked about a little bit about program design. We solved some of the issues with trying to figure out if a string is a palindrome. We've had an opportunity to kind of lay out the functions, lay out some of the logic. We've done everything with the exception of removing punctuation. So in the next video, I'll add the remove punctuation, and then we'll work on another assignment just to kind of get our creative juices flowing as we learn more about the C++ language. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being patient. If you like what you've seen, if you've been able to get anything out of it, hit the like button, subscribe, leave comments so I know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, what I should improve, and I'll see you all again next time.